Okay, Terry, just a couple things I want to point out with the car, so you have an awareness. As you saw in the pictures, the front clip is removable, so I didn't tack it all the way down, like I didn't get it up underneath. I kind of tacked it up here on these screws right here, kind of just laid it down. I did two on this side and two on that side, but it's all there. It lines up real nice. You'll have to mount the hood, which I'm going to do next, and line it up from side to side, front and back, being careful you don't run into the doors and stuff like that. But it does line up very nice. Two of the fuel systems here. This is for these two that have got the two coming out, which is this regulator right here is for the motor. That's the front regulator. This here, this pressure gauge, is to the nitrous kit, because it's a separate regulator to the nitrous. And there's a nitrous pressure line going to the gauge, and there's also another one tapped and going inside into a gauge that I'll show you inside the car. The wiring here, this is for the starter solenoid right here, and it's going to be hanging right here over the whole knot of fuel lines coming in by the fender well. There's some power wires over here I wanted you to look at that go to the nitrous kit. Here's your temperature sending unit that goes onto the intake, and that's all wired inside the car. And there's some wires right here with two connections, and those are both positive. They're both grounded out, and they're switched inside. One is the purge, and the other one is the nitrous and fuel solenoids for the nitrous kit. And they'll be right here around the area of the fuel bunch here. The Flaming River rack I never installed. I never used. I installed it. So once the car's set on how you want it, and it's sitting with the motor, you're going to have to trim this shaft right there. It's got to trim because everything will kind of come closer together as the car comes down on weight. The suspension was all set in there, but none of it has been adjusted. Everything was loosened up for the car to sit, so the springs are pretty much as unsprung as they're going to get, and everything's as loose as it can be. Come over around the side of the car. I haven't washed it yet. I blew all the dust off, although it had two covers on it, but it has been sitting out for a bit. But it shines a very, very nice. It's all original paint up and down the metal here on the roof. The Lexan shines up real nice. I did this side. I didn't do the other side. Here's your charging post where the fuel inlet used to be. Your master disconnect up by the tag. That's a voltmeter right there. Every time the master disconnect switch is on the on position, you're going to get a volt reading there. These are all Zeused. I'm leaving the tool for the Zeus. Look inside of the car. There's the converter. It's a JW 3800 stall. This here is a brake line kit, which I purchased and never used, because I never dropped the last motor in there. Left everything out of the way. And you'll want to take that front clip off to drop a motor, and it just makes it so easy. There's radiator hoses. There's a radiator, and the fan's attached on the other side. I leaned it on the fan so it didn't mess with the fins. It does have the overflow can attached to it on the fan on the other side. There's a 28-inch slicks. They're in great shape. You can see they still got the little hairs on them. We come back here to the back seat, and there's a box full of all kinds of nuts and bolts, whether it's water pump, the rest of the fender bolts with shims for down at the bottom. I'll explain that to you in a bit. Header bolts in there, intake bolts, just about anything I could find. The supports for the radiator, all that stuff is in there. Most of it's labeled. There's a plate that goes between the tranny and the motor, at least for a small block Ford. There's two steering wheels in there that I had purchased that I never did anything with. One is a real nice SVO steering wheel, which is up underneath the box there. That's a nice steering wheel. I know they're desirable. And this is a real nice Grant that actually has the hole tapped on it for the trans brake, which I currently have on that Grant right there. Pressure gauges, obviously, cooling, oil. Here's a nitrous gauge inside the car. Obviously the purge button. And then these are all labeled. The nitrous kit, I can't really see them on there now, but they are clearly labeled. They say fan. The two fuel pumps. Fuel 1 is for the motor, fuel 2 is for the nitrous kit. Obviously the ignition switch and the starter button. So, Monster Tack. Here's the plate for the carb, throttle cable, spring. It's all there. You pulled up over the strut, blaster coil and stuff. Again, this is attached up here, but not on the bottom. And you can see right here, underneath here, I've got two little shims. And you can see where they used to line up right here. So I just kind of set it in there. You can see I left it out because I didn't want any issues of door grabbing onto here. But once you line that up, you'll shim it, and that's what brings it to the right height right here. So, and then there's one other shim spot down on the bottom on that side, on the driver's side. Where it attaches down here. The fender does. And it also takes a shim. Can't think of much else. There's a battery in the box in the back underneath the hatch. That's been in there for at least a year and a half, so I'm sure that's gone. It's an 8-gallon fuel cell. There are two billet pumps up underneath here. I don't know if you could see, there's a filter. I can't really get to the pumps, but there was no fuel in the car when I parked it, but you definitely might want to just take the bottoms off of the pumps, just a couple screws, and maybe WD-40 some of the gears in there and stuff, because it has been sitting for a bit. But I also have that console in there that I mentioned that goes on the Cheetah shifter. Let's see where that is. I know I put it in here somewhere. Here it is. See, that's it right there. And it's got 3 switches on it. And I was trying to do something like that. And it's going to take a little trimming and fabbing around the MSD in a 2-step. But not much. Supposedly it's for the newer style Cheetah shifter. But I've seen guys make it work, so that'll be in there. The e-brake does work, emergency brake. I do have a fuel pressure gauge just mounted on the cowling there. So I'll be sending you some of this and anything else I could think of that I need to tell you. There's the tranny cooler up here on the inner side of the fender, towards the front on the passenger side, and then these are the lines that go into these metal lines. I just kind of pulled them up out of the way. I'll zip tie these and put them up against this bar, I guess. Brakes were brand new, pads are brand new. They might have a little surface rust, but that'll all clean off. Like I said, the rack's never even been run. Whatever little surface rust is on there is just from it sitting. There's wiring for the fan right here, just kind of curled up. You'll see it goes to the front. This goes to the distributor. This is your oil pressure sending unit right here. It goes into your sending unit on the side of the block, and that runs into the gauge inside. That's about everything I can think of right about now. If I think of anything else, man, I'll get back to you. I'll send you these tomorrow when I get a hold of you at some point. All right, Terry, we'll be talking.